Welcome to Roll Call, a 126th Air Refueling Wing podcast of the Illinois Air National Guard at Scott Air Force Base. I'm your host, Technical Sergeant Brian Ellison. The Roll Call podcast focused on people, mission, and community. Hello to our deployers. I know some of you are excited because you're on your way home. Coming up, part two of my conversation with the Wing Commander, Colonel Tom Jackson. It's going to be 3 parts, this interview. I can't believe how much good stuff we talked about, and I get to share with you guys. I would have had some video of our conversation, at least for part 2 and part 3, but let's face it, my organizational skills are they're lacking. There is a boom selection board for current military members and civilians. Boom operator, that's an in-flight refueling specialist. Selection board is for drill status guardsmen. The board is tentatively scheduled for February 20th at 09. Applications are due by close of business February 17th. Applications need to have a cover letter, a resume, plus it has to include 3 references. The 3 letters of recommendation may come from your references. A minimum armed services vocational aptitude battery, our favorite, ASVAB, is 55. In general category, you can see the recruiting Facebook page for information on the board and what else you need, or call the recruiting office 618-222-5701. Hopefully, we can have Chief Master Sergeant Latimer on to talk more about the boom operator board next week, but not sure because we might have a VIP from the state on roll call.
Hi, my name's Senior Airman Gregory Goder. I'm part of the 126 Comptroller flight, and I'm a financial manager here. My day-to-day job would be, I'm an accounting technician basically. So I'm in charge of all the squadron's purchases, and I make sure they hit the books correctly. What I like most about being in the 126 is I'm an AGR out here, so I work out here full-time. With that, I get a bunch of opportunities. Traveling is probably my favorite opportunity. I've been to a bunch of cool places like Washington State, which was the first time I've ever been there. I also play on the base softball team, so I get to travel with them quite a bit as well. I joined the Air National Guard because after college, I had a couple jobs I didn't really like, and I wanted to have an impactful career and make a difference on my community. I chose the 126 because I could pretty much stay around all my friends and family and still be part of the Air National Guard. I joined the Comptroller flight because my bachelor's in business management, and it kind of just fell hand in hand with working with finances. But one huge benefit I've been taking advantage of is my full-time employment as an AGR. As an AGR, I get active duty pay, benefits, and everything that goes along with being active duty, but I get to stay home.
Hi, we are the 126 recruiting team. I'm Master Sergeant Heather Wilde, recruiting flight chief.
I'm Technical Sergeant Richard Olson, production recruiter. To learn more about career training with the 126, give us a call at 618-222-5701.
But wait, there's more. Give us a call in the next 5 minutes and you could qualify for 4 years of free college tuition.
Joining us back on the roll call for part 2 of the big interview is the big man himself, the 126th Air Refueling Wing Commander, Colonel Tom Jackson. Sir, thanks for coming back. We covered a lot of things last time.
Yeah, it was a good talk. We had a good time.
Yeah, it was a great time. We have a lot more to talk about, it seems like. I'm trying to fix my mic as we talk. That's probably not a good idea when we're on the air. I wanted to talk about I just kind of skipped over it just because we had so many things to talk about, and when you're taking notes and all that, and I asked Chief Henry this, and I wanted to ask you this as well. What is your leadership philosophy?
Leadership philosophy. So one of the big things we do here is not just running the wing, but creating the next round of leadership, right? Who's coming next? And so I guess my philosophy is, as a leader, creating new leaders is a bigger indicator of how you are as a leader than what you do as that leader. So always help people grow in the next round of leadership behind me. And that's kind of setting the next 5, 10, 15 years of leaders, is building them now, and always growing, always learning. There's always something to learn, good and bad, from people. So always learn.
Who are some people that mentored you throughout the years that you learned a lot from?
Obviously, being in the wing for almost 32 years now, a lot of folks that I've dealt with throughout the years have been my mentors, and I could easily point to the first two, were my first two supervisors on aircraft 0067, Sergeant Jimmy Nichols and Sergeant Jimmy Grazinia. So they were my crew chiefs. They were the lead full-timers for my airplane as a crew chief when I started out. And they're the ones that really kind of set the tone for, when you come into work and you have things to do on that weekend, do them. These are your things to do. This is your responsibility. Here are the people that will help you get that done, including us. And, here are the other folks outside of, the flight line folks. So if you got to go get stuff done in some of the back shops or whatever, here's some of the folks you can go to. And they're the ones, kind of the first people, the first people you meet in an organization are the ones who really kind of give you that first impression of how the organization is overall. And that's where I learned from. Going from there, I had a couple other crew chiefs that were more senior to me and been around for a while. There's he's currently a senior master sergeant, Tom Hollerick. He's in the Air Force Reserves now, but he was a big guy for me. I had just a bunch of other folks early on that were big helps in my career to get me moving. And then as I got a little older, got in the unit for a while, General Kiesler, who was technically my second wing commander. I think I had a wing commander for about a year when I was still going through basic training, tech school and stuff, so I didn't really know who they were. But when General Kiesler started a couple years in, he did what most wing commanders do nowadays, is they have briefings or meetings with their airmen who've been around for 3 or 4 years and are getting within that 2-year point of separation. And hey, what do you guys want to do? What's your future career like? What do you like, what you don't like, and those kind of things. And it was that meeting where I said, well, sir, I want to be a pilot. How do I do that? And he goes, oh, well, we got a pilot board coming up. And so that's how I learned about the pilot position. But throughout the career, I had another 14 years, 12 years with that particular wing commander. And he was a huge influencer in my life throughout, just not because I worked for him directly, but I saw what he did with airmen. And when I was doing an exercise, for example, a nuclear exercise on the flight line, and I was running around doing things, he was driving around talking to the security forces folks on the ramp. He was meeting people at the gate. He was doing things that were well outside what I thought a commander would do. And I thought, well, it really kind of taught me about the people side of things. And then throughout my career, you meet people not only that really help shape your kind of opinions and shape your methods and shape your thoughts throughout your career in a good way, but there were a few that made me go, okay, don't do that. Don't do that. That's probably not the best way to handle things. But so I've had a lot of that and kind of learn something from everyone you meet. That's kind of the way I look at it.
How important do you see mentorship that you received coming up in the wing for young airmen and young officers?
So this is something that I'm really going to hit hard with folks coming up. My first year has been a non-standard, I guess you'd say,
Sure.
as a commander.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to kind of hit this next year as my first year, which is something I would have probably done last April, May, is really letting every single airman know from the day they swear in to the day they decide whether or not they're going to sign up for another term, is to know that the door is always open to them. There is a path to whatever the success they want to be in, but it's their path to go. In other words, I had lots of folks throughout my career basically tell me, hey, have you ever thought about this? Have you thought about going to this school or doing that? Or, hey, do you have your PME done? And I never looked at that as them questioning my abilities or challenging me to be better in such a way as to prove myself. It was always, hey, if you get your PME done, there might be an opportunity for you later. We didn't know if there would be one, but God forbid that opportunity came, I wasn't ready. So being prepared to walk through a door that becomes open to you is every person's responsibility. It's every manager's responsibility to let the airmen know, let the people know what doors are available and when they're available, and to be prepared for them when they come through. So for me, that was, for the younger airmen is to always be prepared. When you have the appropriate level PME or professional education for your particular rank or point in your career, have it done or get ready to do it and schedule it in your life and get it done. If it's a bachelor's degree or an associate degree from CCAF, then get that done. It's much easier to do earlier in life than it is later in life. So be prepared. Get that stuff done.
Talking about people that are getting out, what would you say to somebody right now who's thinking about getting out?
What would I say? It depends, because it depends on where they are in their career. But I always tell people, are you sold on getting out? In other words, are you truly done with the military, or are you just done for now? Because there are a lot of folks who decide to separate at certain points of their career. And
Yeah.
by and large, I'll tell them, every single one of them, well, you know what? I really, really want you to stay, because more often than not, folks get into this certain point in their life when a part-time military job, especially given the requirements that we have nowadays, just doesn't fit in their overall life. And but that might be only temporary. In other words, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, their lifestyle or their situation in life will be slightly different, where maybe the part-time military job will be good again. So I always leave that door open for those folks who are said, nope, I really want to get out. I'm done. I've done my first 6 years. I got my degree. I want to go build my career wherever that may be. Okay, great. But if the time comes later, come on back. Or if you don't want to come back to our unit and you live somewhere else in the country, think about joining back up, because you're the kind of person that we want to have. And for those folks who are on the fence, I always tell them, give it another year, maybe 2. Take a short term. If you can get a short 1 or 2 year stint and just to keep it going, you might get over that hump of whether or not you want to go or stay, and then get to a defined decision, even if that decision later is, okay, yeah, I do want to get out. Well, now you got 2 more years of service.
Right.
And now with the blended retirement system, if you can get to your 10 to 12 year mark, you're actually going to be better off financially in retirement than you would have a couple of years ago on the old retirement system. So having folks staying in is always better. And a lot of times it's during those retention interviews that you find out whether or not someone was truly mentored early. And some of those folks come to that point because they realize, well, I'm at the end of my road has ended here. I've got no upward progression in this current position. I said, well, have you tried going to a different position? Have you tried doing something different? I was just talking to you earlier. You were in whole different service at one point.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of folks don't really understand that you can go from one job to another in the same wing or even the same group and do a different job. And that usually opens a door to somebody to say, well, I didn't know I could do that. And that's really what I've been interested in, because for 3 years I've been watching that person. I love that job. So that's a great way to keep people in. So open that door to, hey, what else is out here that we can keep you going?
That's what we hear about public affairs. People are like, I didn't know this job existed.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really know it existed either until a friend of mine told me about it. And I joined the Army again as public affairs. But yeah, I just had an airman in here today. He goes, oh, I love cameras. I'm like,
Yep.
when your time comes, maybe it's a good thing to come and sign up for, maybe re-up for public affairs. You talked about mentorship in that, and that how important it is to keeping people in the Guard. How can you as a commander, what else can you do as a commander to cultivate mentorship in the wing?
And once again, going back to growing the leaders, is I can educate the ones that work directly for me. I can educate the squadron commanders. I can educate a lot of different folks on what's out there, what's available. But if I'm the only one doing that, that's not enough. I have to have every single person being mentored by those that they work for and work with. And the folks have been around a while. There are certain folks who've been around a long, long time and have a lot of education, a lot of skills, a lot of experience in what the Guard can provide, both professionally and personally, and making sure that that's shared with everybody and that mentorship is there. So the diversity piece I mentioned, is that regardless of who you are, that you'll have that same path available to the person that works for you in the same office. That you're all provided the same opportunities, you're all provided the same skills so that you can all learn the same things. But ultimately, some people will rise to the top and other people will develop different speeds. Some people will rise to the top later. Some people are very quick to accelerate and learn something and progress. And then they maybe plateau for a little while. Other people, a little bit more of a constant progression, maybe a little slower, but constant over a whole career. But being able to play each and every single person's individual skill sets to the timing that's appropriate for them without pushing them too hard. Some people, you got to be careful, right? You can't bring someone in and expect them to be doing tech sergeant work in the first 3 years. But at the same time, you can't have a tech sergeant doing the same work for 10 years, 12 years. You got to make sure that they're grown as well and moved around and given some different opportunities so they can grow. That having that constant conversation, that constant involvement, and that direct communication with individual members. And as a wing commander, I can't do that with every single airman day to day, but I know my NCOs can. I know the NCOs that are working with the airmen can do that. And I know the company grade officers can do that with the lieutenants, and the field grade officers can do that with the CGOs and so forth. And making sure that we really encourage growth and education and experience and development.
And you're encouraging that growth through a new program that you're starting?
Yes. Back about 6-7 years ago, I kind of came up with something when I was in the IG world, and I handed off to Major Hukel and Major Lubeck at the time, and I said, "Hey, you guys can take this." I was in the IG, and they were commanders or about to be commanders at the time, and if it was more effective for them in the command section, commanders to be able to do that. And it's really just it's a mentorship program for the wing. It's not focused specifically on any grade or any position or any group at all. It's all about leadership development, because we focus a lot on skills and being able to turn the wrenches and being able to fly the airplanes and being able to push the papers and all those technical skills that are vital to being able to run an organization. But it's that art of leadership that's tough. It's that art of leadership that is very difficult to train someone, and sometimes it's ingrained, sometimes it's just natural for people, and other folks you need to kind of train that a little bit, give them that exposure where they can see it in action, they can learn it and practice it. So this program is going to give really airmen and officers the opportunity to interact, get to know what else is out there in the wing, get to know different people in the wing. I'm going to be able to have commanders share their experiences with younger folks so that they know what it takes to be a commander, so that those folks can bubble to the top and go, yeah, that's something I'm interested in. How do I get there? How do I do that? And what's it going to take? Because there's a lot of folks who want to be a commander.
Sure.
But as soon as you start telling them what it takes to be a commander, they go, well, maybe not. What does it take to be the deputy commander? Or maybe even it's, wing commander, that's great, but no, I want to be a general officer. What does it take to be that? I want to be a general. I want to be the adjutant general. What does it take to do that? And we can share that. And that's so from a mentorship standpoint, this program is ideally focused on opening the aperture to everyone to get exposure out there. And a lot of my NCOs, senior NCOs, and some of my field grade officers are going to have the opportunity to get in front of groups and talk, which is not something they normally do.
Love that.
Right. And from a leadership perspective, I get to see some of my younger leaders, both enlisted and officer, getting out there in the field, getting outside their comfort zone and learning and growing. Because that's really the only time you learn, right? You're an athlete, The only time to get better is to expand that envelope a little bit and kind of do something uncomfortable, right?
Been doing that for the past 10 days.
Yeah. So as soon as you get a little uncomfortable, you grow a little bit, you get a little better, and then the stuff inside your envelope gets much easier.
What's this program going to look like? Is it classes? How is this going to unfold?
I'm kind of leaving that to I'm really just the champion of. I've got the bones of it,
okay,
and I really want the folks that are going to be in that organization, that group, that team, if you will. And it's really there's no requirements. There's no minimum requirements to being part of it. There's no maximum benefit. It's one of those things. It's not like a CGO or an NCO or a top 5 or top 3 or anything else. it's anybody can be part of it, and it's think of it as like a Toastmasters International, right? So if you think of Toastmasters International, their whole idea is to help you become a better speaker and become more comfortable with interactions and those kind of things, and to teach leadership. So if you think of it that way, that's how it's going to be set up. So there's going to be some guest speakers. I'm going to have my intent is to have some outside leaders, if you will, some public personnel come in to talk about leadership experience, talk about leadership development, talk about skill sets, talk about those folks are on podcasts, those folks that are doing those things that you listen to or you see on social media or you see on podcasts or whatever. That go, wow, I really liked what that person said about this subject. Well, let's bring them in, talk to our core folks in a program, and anybody can come in, and then they can share thoughts and experiences, and then ultimately I want to be able to tap into that and get feedback for me and my teams. Like, how are we doing?
Oh, that's good.
Are we doing what we need to do to give you folks the tools you need to grow so that when we all step away, meaning me and the more senior folks of the wing, as we step away, that they're all prepared to step into those roles and keep this machine rolling the way it is.
So you talk about these mentorship classes, these opportunities. Are these going to be during UTA drill weekends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mostly. We'll and we're going to tap in with the 375th as well.
Okay.
With the installation, since they have stuff throughout the year and throughout the on and off weekends, we're going to try to tap into some of those as well, because there's so much capacity here to learn, and what I want to avoid is those folks, and even I had some of it later. Luckily for me, I had folks like General Nizamis. He was one of those mentors early on that I didn't even know what a mentor was. But until I realized it, I realized what he was doing was, hey, Captain Jackson at the time, I want you to, what do you want to do? And I said, well, sir, I want to be an instructor pilot. Okay, I can make that happen, but I want you to be my chief of aircrew scheduling. And I said, okay, I have no idea what that takes to do that, but okay, So what he was doing was he was giving me those opportunities to learn, but it wasn't until later that I realized that there were some other people who didn't get those opportunities. There were other people who maybe were given that question, but they were like, nah, I don't want to do that. And then later in life, they were told, well, remember before you said you didn't want to do that, and that's what we really needed at the time. So not to say that you can't say no to a job. What I'm saying is,
sure,
there are sometimes that we don't offer enough opportunities to people to explore and to grow. So I want to make sure that there can only be one commander in a unit, right? There can only be one chief in that unit. There can only be a couple of senior NCO. The space at the top is limited, of however you want to define the top. But everybody has the same opportunity to be there. So we got to be careful on where we place people and how we place people, and so it makes sense at the time. But ultimately, that even the most senior people we put in positions have the opportunity to advance or go sideways to do something different to expand their abilities. And making sure everyone has that ability. And some people are perfectly happy doing the job they're doing for a long time. And that makes them happy. They enjoy it, and they're very comfortable with that, and that is perfectly fine. In the ops world, we always said being an aircraft commander in a KC-135 is an excellent thing to do, and if you want to do that your whole career, that's perfectly fine. Then as every younger person than you comes up and be your commander, I just need you to support that person, and that's okay, right? So, yeah.
That's great advice. You just got to. Yep, I've been in those positions where you see somebody. Anyways,
I think we all have, right? I mean, we've all
sure.
seen people move up and do things that make you scratch your head and go, "What?" I don't, but maybe there was something that you just didn't know,
right?
And that's also a lot of things that. But this mentorship program, this is going to give. I call it peeks behind the curtain.
Okay.
There's a lot of people who they think that I'm this Oz, a great
sure,
behind a curtain pulling a bunch of levers and stuff.
Right.
There's nothing unusual or different that I do now than I did as an aircraft commander my first time running a crew, over to Europe.
Right.
And it's just you have a mission to do, and you execute that mission with the tools you have. It just so happens that my mission's significantly different and a different set of tools. So you just got to learn those set of tools. Whether if I give people those peeks behind the curtain on, well, here's why this decision is being made, or here's a program we're working on or a problem set we've been presented. How do you guys think we should fill that? Because if I can get that input from my NCOs and my company grade officers, I can go, wow, that's some really, I didn't even think about that. That's a great input. But if it's an idea that wouldn't work to begin with, I can tell them why. Now that field grade officer knows, as a field grade officer, why a certain process or procedure is done the way it is, rather than having to wait to get into a command position and then say, I want to do this. Well, if he knew that, 5 years ago I learned that doesn't work and here's why. Okay, great. Because we have rules, we have AFIs, we have things that tell us how to do things, and there are a lot of times that it's like picking your battles, right? If you want to win the war, you got to pick your battles, and sometimes you got to fight really hard for some things, and because you know it's right, you know it's legal, you know it's appropriate. And there's other times where you go, hey, we're not going to win this one. So how can we manage this problem set in such a way that we know we're going to have to go down this road, but how can we manage this problem set in such a way that is least impactful for our people? And by getting that input from those NCOs and company grade officers, I would hope I would get an unvarnished feedback from the field right away, and I can make a better decision at my level.
Speaking of making better decisions and getting feedback, your climate survey, you're asking people to sign up. Can you see the results now, or you can't see the results until the end?
No, the DX climate survey, once again, that would have come out probably April, May of last year. Obviously, there was a few things going on.
Yeah, just a few.
So that is out now.
Okay.
So I think it's available through February UTA, I believe.
Yes.
Because it was extended a little bit because we started a little late. So, and you can do that it's a really quick thing through. You can do it. I did it on my phone. So on my cell phone. So it's super easy to do. It only takes.
You can do it yourself.
I think I did. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Hey. I guess we know who the high marks came from.
Well, I got to balance all the low ones, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
No, but it was either that one. I've done. I get more requests for surveys than I like
really?
to deal with. Oh yeah, I probably get one every time I go to the military doctor. I get one, and survey on this, survey on that. Yeah, I don't know if it's my position or what, but I get a bunch of them. Huh. But I'm told that this DX survey, which is the climate survey that's open, it's a different system than it was before. It's changed. The questions are quite a bit different. So they're not, I think they fixed a lot of the concerns that they had in the past. So it's still completely anonymous, but that's a great tool for us to at least get a generic snapshot of what the general climate is as far as attitudes and things like that in the wing. And that obviously is in the standard, is about diversity, about inclusion, about performance, about all kinds of things. So we really need a lot of folks to participate in that so we can get the best numbers we can. And then my technique has always been, whenever I see one of those, is I look at the results, I boil it down to, okay, what's actionable? What can I really do about it? And then I get with my senior leaders, and once again, I'll probably get with this group, the mentorship group, and say, okay, hey, here are the big ticket items. Here's what was said bad about me. Here's what was said good about me or the wing or the leaders, whatever. And but what's actionable? What can we do about it? And get that back out there, because what I really want is I want that individual airman out there or officer who anonymously commented or made comments or remarks in a survey that's being answered. And I'm not going to go back and say, well, look, from Sergeant Ellison, I have a comment on blah, blah, blah. What I want to be able to do is publicly, make people aware that a specific issue, for example, is being taken care of and addressed. That way, those people who made comments on it can sit back and go, good. Now that survey I said that in looks like it's being handled. And that's the big ticket on those things. It's not, we're never really looking, I'm never ever looking to highlight any specific person or unit or anything else. But yeah, the climate survey is out there, and the sooner we do it. Now, I'm not sure if the UEI survey is still open, and that's the one I just did, was the UEI survey, but the UEI survey is out there as well. There's two of them.
Which one's that? I don't know.
So there's a unit effectiveness inspection in July.
Okay.
So in the past, what's always happened is the AMC Inspector General sends out a generic email to everyone in the wing on the UEI, on the unit effectiveness inspection. What that is that's related to the 4 major graded areas of a unit of effectiveness inspection. And It's a little bit longer than the climate survey, but not terribly long. And once again, that's another one that's easily done on your cell phone. And it's done officer and enlisted. That's it. It's not broken down by rank. It's even though it asks about different rank.
Sure.
Make sure if anybody's doing it, make sure you read the directions. It's if you're an officer, you're O1 to O3, I think it is, and if you're enlisted, you're E1 to E4,
6, I think.
E1 to E6 or something.
Yeah, something
Either
like
way,
that.
what it does is they're not looking to find out if a female chief from LRS. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for enlisted and officer comments.
Okay.
So the climate survey is a little different in the DOX in that way, but that's out there as well. So if they can get both of those done, the UEI survey is what the AMCIG team will use to get what they call a heat map. In other words, what are the big ticket items where are the most of the people saying? Is there a positive thing going here or a negative thing here, or is it neutral all the way across, or what are they really looking at? So they get that survey information, then they come to the wing, and then they talk to individual people and say, and try to validate those findings, and that helps me from an outside perspective rather than just a DOX survey of everybody in the wing. The UEI survey actually is what the outside folks are going to get to come in and, yep, everyone says that your PA says your shop is awesome, and we checked them out, and sure enough, you guys are right. They got the best one in the Air National Guard, and I knew that. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right now, are there any concerns that you're seeing throughout the wing? I mean, that that need to maybe changed, fixed. I don't know what, any concerns on the enlisted side or officer side that you think needs to be addressed right now before the DOX survey?
And one of the things we're always working on, especially in the last 10 months, has been airmen's time and funding. So we know that an Air National Guard income is not huge for most traditionals, right? You come in on a weekend, you don't get a ton of money on the weekend, but there's a lot more to it than just the money. But because of the sometimes canceled drills, sometimes the movement of drills, and we've been pushing a lot of training off, sometimes a full week or a month, we're really going to have to start stressing the airmen's time on a drill weekend more than we would normally. So normally in a 2-day period when we've got 2 8-hour days that we can really work with an airman or our members once a month, we're actually having to use split UTAs, so we're doing 2 UTAs a month essentially now for the next few months. And simply it's because we have lost so much time in 2020, we still have a lot of things to catch up on, that we have a lot of things to do. So airmen's time is important. I want to make sure that when someone comes, they don't feel like they've just been worn out for 2 days and just constant run. We want to make sure that they still feel good about being here and coming into work, and not only from a work environment perspective, but from a COVID prevention perspective. I want to make sure people understand that it's safe to come to work. We're doing all the protocols. We're doing all the safety stuff. So it's okay to come here, do your thing, and by the end of the day, you're going to feel like you actually did something, and you're going to come out of it with a couple extra bucks in your pocket. But then the whole wing is going to be better off as a whole as we perform our mission sets moving forward. So that's one big thing. And then the budgets are the other one. Last year, the federal budget was just blown up because of the COVID thing, and it's just the way it is. It's going to affect our budgeting over the next, several cycles. We have a new administration coming in, so who knows what's going to happen with that. And so all those kind of things take a lot of pressure on us at the budget level to go, okay, what are we getting, and how's it going to affect the airmen? If I'm going to get less flying hours, that's a huge impact for us across the board, because flying hours drive a lot of our operations, certainly from the flying operations, but the money associated with those flying hours is really kind of the core of that budget. And then with the number of travel and deployments and those kind of things, luckily the deployment numbers are starting to come down significantly for the wing, which is good. We're coming out of our RCP here in a few months, so I'm looking forward to getting everybody back. We brought all of our ops and maintenance back in early December out of the CENTCOM area of responsibility, and now we're going to the PACOM area in March, April. But we still have a bunch of folks in CENTCOM, PACOM, and AFRICOM. CENTCOM and AFRICOM for a few more months, but they should start coming home end of this month, I believe. Early next month, we have our folks start coming home, and within about 2-3 months, we'll have everybody back. And so once we get everybody whole, I'm really looking forward to that. So this summer should be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, sir. I think I'm going to let you go. I think we've, holy cow, we've taken up a lot of your time, but I appreciate you coming by and talking to us. Anything else you think? Anything else you'd like to add?
That was from a public affairs standpoint. I was talking to the Vice Wing Commander the other day and talked about our history and our future and that kind of thing. And we just realized that, I knew it was coming, but we laid out. So the wing, the 126th, has been around since 1927.
Wow.
So we've been around a long time. But the Air Refueling Wing has only been around since 1950. So we started refueling in 1950 with the KC-97s. So 2022 is our 75th anniversary of the 126 Air Refueling Wing. Right? 2022? No, 2022 is our 75th anniversary of the 126th of operation. So 75th anniversary.
Wait, we started refueling in 70.
No, we started
50.
refueling in 1950. We were observation and bomb squadrons, bombing units before that. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were observation.
You're asking me to
fighter.
Do math right now, sir.
All kinds of stuff. So, but we've got multiple. So 22, 25, and 27.
Yes.
It's essentially our 95th anniversary, our 75th anniversary as a wing, and then our 100th anniversary is 2027. 100th anniversary as a wing.
Wow.
So 375th just had theirs in 2017. But that was actually the 108th Air Refueling Squadron has some history back to World War I, 1917, the 108th.
Really?
Back in World War I. But the historians have it back to 1927. But for an observation squadron is when we started. But our wing have a 100-year anniversary coming up in 2027. So maybe I should say that, right? Someone wants to get out in 25. It's like, well, why don't you stay in for 2 more years for the 100th?
Yeah.
We're the oldest air refueling wing in the Air National Guard.
All right. I got to ask you one more thing.
Okay.
What was it like, or what? Yeah, I guess the only way to ask is what was it like in 2000 on September 11th, 2001? What was your mission that day?
That particular day, I was in the simulator here on campus. I was doing the first period, so between 7 and 9 a.m. I was in briefings, kind of getting ready to step into the simulator itself. So we were on a break from about 8:45 to 9 o'clock, and we were getting ready to go in the simulator box, and we were watching the news, and we're like, what the heck is going on here? And things had just started happening. First tower had gotten hit, and it was one of those sobering moments that, as military members, the call's coming.
Yeah.
I kind of looked around at my folks that we were with and looked at the sim instructor, and I said, I think we're done for the day. So we walked back over to the ops building, and sure enough, I kind of worked with I was in scheduling at the time, and they said, hey, let's start making crews, because we knew the call was coming, and we started calling people at home. We started getting in touch with we did a recall immediately. And it was one of those instantaneous from the wing level, across the board, the entire wing had this instantaneous taking a step toward war. It was no different than when we got the call in 2011, I think it was, where we all went to Morón, Spain, and got called out for that operation. It was, a call came from above to the wing commander, and the wing commander said, Roger, we're on it. See you there in 72 hours. And no kidding. So within an hour, I was sent home to pack up and get in crew rest, and then an hour later, I was called to come back to crew rest on base because they realized the restrictions were going into place. It took me 2 hours to get back on base.
Wow.
I spent about 3 or 4 days living on base and flying alert missions around the country, and it was a quiet time. There was if you thought March, April, May was quiet when you look up in the skies and you didn't see airliners flying and that kind of thing, it was even quieter then.
Wow.
I remember on the September 12th doing an airborne mission over Chicago O'Hare at the time, and looking down, a beautiful day to fly, and it was nobody out there, and it was about 22,000 feet over Chicago, and refueling F-16s from Springfield, who had F-16s at the time, and Madison, Wisconsin, but hundreds of airplanes parked on runways and taxiways and ramps at O'Hare, and it was complete silence on the radios. Nobody talking, because nobody was out there.
Sure,
we
yeah,
were
that
the
makes
only
sense.
ones. And it was shortly thereafter, things kind of started shifting back toward a little more toward normal in the U.S.
Right.
But then we came home realizing that, okay, Now our focus is going to shift
Right.
to the war.
Were you in the air on September 11th?
I was not. I was like I said, I was getting ready to go in the simulator, but we had being that early in the morning, we were getting ready to launch some airplanes for local flying that day, but we didn't have anybody gone. I think, if I remember correctly, I think we had 2 airplanes and some crews in Geilenkirch in Germany doing their mission out there, and they were all grounded, and it took them about an extra week to get home because of the air traffic and restrictions and all that other kind of thing. But so they delayed a little bit, but they finally got all back, and then and we have the 126 has supported every named operation in that AOR since then.
That was part 2 of our conversation with the 126th Air Refueling Wing Commander, Colonel Tom Jackson. I'll have part 3 of my conversation coming up with Colonel Jackson in a couple weeks. We'll hear about his personal life and why he joined the wing, and we'll hear why airline pilots wear clip-on ties.
With your look around the Air Force, I'm Senior Airman Angelo Rosadio. The Skyborg Vanguard program will provide autonomous or unmanned aircraft that can augment fighter missions or take on missions too dangerous for manned crews. Air Force doctrine states humans will always remain responsible for lethal decision-making, but Skyborg will provide key data to pilots and decision-makers for greater situational awareness and survivability during combat missions. The Air Force Lifecycle Management Center is partnering with the Air Force Research Lab. Contracts were awarded to 4 aerospace companies to support the Skyborg project. The contracts give companies a chance to compete for a possible $400 million in delivery orders. A new Air Force program called Direct to Duty Technical Training, or D2T2, sends airmen straight from basic training directly to their duty station for training. It's designed to train airmen faster and more efficiently without risking their health by traveling to additional bases for tech school. Tech school instructors will grade and track progress remotely, regardless of where the airman's initial assignment is after basic training. Going straight to their first duty location eliminates the need for traditional technical training and also saves money for the Air Force. Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunter air crews from the 53rd Weather Reconnaissance Squadron at Keesler Air Force Base, Mississippi, flew 5 weather reconnaissance missions into Hurricane Douglas, the season's first major storm in the Pacific. During a tropical storm or hurricane, hunters fly through the eye of the storm at 10,000 feet and collect information on temperature, wind speeds, and other critical data not available from satellites. The storm data helps forecasters give the best updates and warnings possible. The Hurricane Hunter unit from the 53rd is the one Department of Defense organization still flying into storms, a mission that started in 1944. And that's your look around the Air Force.
MilTax from Military OneSource includes free, easy-to-use tax preparation and e-filing software designed for situations common to service members and their families. The suite of services include MilTax consultants who can answer your questions and advise you on military-specific tax requirements. You can find all of our links to our webpage and Facebook at Linktr.ee/126ARW. If you're watching on Facebook, you can also download this on your favorite podcast app. If you want to pass along some information, you can email roll call at 126.arw.pa.mm.org@us.af.mil. It's the email address that never stops. Thanks for listening to Roll Call, a 126th Air Refueling Wing podcast focused on people, mission, and community. I'm Tech Sergeant Brian Ellison.